Hey, how are you today? It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday with Weezy. Yes, I know. I've been going live every day for the month of April. Today is day 25. So I only have like uh 8 more days to go live. But anyway, I am coming to you in my regular Wednesday with Weezy format. So I'm coming live from YouTube and Facebook, and I hope you will join in. And today I'm going to go on about a little nostalgia. Earlier, well, it was last week, I asked on Facebook, what cookbook may have you gotten for a wedding present? And I was really looking for people to answer Betty Crocker, or Better Homes and Garden. Um, and why did I ask such a question? Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but I want you to respond here in the comments. If you got a Betty Crocker cookbook, and did you ever have the Betty Crocker cookie cookbook, which in our house was like a staple for Christmas time? And did you just use the mixes but never had a recipe book? So today I am going to focus on Betty Crocker. Betty Crocker was pretty interesting. But anyways, what made me think about these things and get down this trail of thinking about these old iconic cookbooks? Um, a few weekends ago, I met my son and a friend at a antiques thrift mall. And we were walking through the booths, and I looked down, and there was a one of the really old cookbooks sitting there. And it just flooded back memories for me. I'm like going, and I was telling Aaron's friend, I'm going, that was like a staple for back in the day, and maybe it still is now. I just don't go to many wedding events these days. Um, but it used to be a staple back in the day that at least one person would buy the bride to be a either a Betty Crocker cookbook or a Better Homes and Garden cookbook. Why? Because these cookbooks were like a primer. It They're not just cookbooks, they were a guide, they were in an instruction book. And in doing some research, I found out the old Betty Crocker cookbooks were more than that. And that is what I want to share about with you today here on Weezy. So, moving ahead, that is why I thought about the Betty Crocker cookbook. Um, with some of, and I'm just going to put it out there, with some of my upcoming projects, you're going to learn more about the Betty Crocker cookbook and about the other cookbooks. But I just wanted to put this information out there today and just focus on the Betty Crocker because I don't want to give you a whole dissertation. I just want to kind of keep it quick, simple, and easy. So, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and bring up some notes that I have, and you can read along with me. So, here is the cookbook I'm talking about. Hold on a second here. So this is the cookbook. This edition is from like the 1960s. Let's see what else they have to say. And look at all the different things that they had to give you guides for cooking. And then like I said, it was like a primer. So here were terms that you needed to know. And I can tell you for sure, if you don't allow your children into the kitchen to cook with you, they don't know this. I have learned this the hard way through some of my son's girlfriends. They come in the kitchen, they don't even know how to stir anything. They don't know how to cut. So, one thing I am going to say is, parents, please allow your children to be in the kitchen. This is for boys and for girls. They need to be in there. They need to know how these basic things, what they are and how to do it. Let's see what else is in here. Measuring spoons and how to measure the difference between a liquid cup and a dry cup. So some of us think back to your old home ec classes. We learned this in home ec. They don't have much home ec anymore in many of the schools. Um, Different ingredients that you could have, and just looking over, well, I know everything but absorbic acid would be what I would have known. And I do know that. So I know that that is vitamin C. And then equipment, the correct choices. And this, again, is a very important thing. And a lot of people just don't. There's just some people that just don't know these things. But this was in the 1960s cookbook. So if you don't have one, you might want to grab one if you don't know these things. Um, so Betty Crocker. Oh, I hope this is sharing. So over here on Betty Crocker, the and I hope this is sharing. So Betty Crocker was started back in 1921. So it is like 103 years old now. But was there really a Betty Crocker? No. Betty Crocker was a figment of imagination. Let's see. It says, who would have guessed a simple contest by the Washburn Crosby Company would give birth to an icon? The contest was called on home cooks to solve a jigsaw puzzle for the chance to win a pincushion in the shape of a bag of gold medal flour. Cute. Washburn, a flour milling company and predecessor to predecessor of General Mills, was surprised to find themselves suddenly inundated with questions from home cooks who used the competition as an opportunity to ask expert baking advice. So, hence, that is how Betty Crocker and their products started to come about. Betty Crocker's history is the history of an American woman. Betty Crocker doesn't offer American women just recipes and bought cakes mixes. She was conceived to be an ally to women who still regulated roles as wives and mothers. And she offered advice to the mid-century radio show. She did TV, or perhaps really the spokesperson, Marjorie Child Hussed, did. She published the Betty Crocker picture cookbook, known as nicknamed Big Red, one of the pillars of the 20th century cooking. The book offered not only recipes, but step-by-step photographs, innovative features, for its time and practical support for the women managing their households. So just give me a minute here. Um, but Betty Crocker became an icon. Let me see if I have anything else here on Betty Crocker. Um, Gotcha. So stop sharing. Sorry, but Betty Crocker. I mean, if the concept was born in 1921, definitely was around all through my childhood. And I remember myself. I remember the cookie cookbook the most. I don't think we had a Betty Crocker cookbook per se. I do remember some of the other cookbooks, but we're not going to talk about them today. Um, but it's just kind of funny because now, with the way society is, it it's like, oh, giving tips on women on how to cook, how to keep home. These all things were highlighted through Betty Crocker, but also in the magazines and different things like that. And then they started the mixes and stuff like that. But in our house, we had the cookie cookbook. And I can tell you there was two recipes in which we used every year for the holidays. Actually, there was three recipes in there that we followed. Fudge meltaways, which if you don't know what they are, I haven't had them in probably 20 or 30 years. But it was a graham cracker crust, and then there was like a creamy white center that you made, and you patted it in, you put that in the refrigerator, and then you took I think either semi-sweet chocolate or chocolate, and you melted it and you poured over the top. But it was like a chocolatey graham cracker crust. If you ever had fudge meltaways, leave a comment because they were the bomb. These days, hardly anybody, a lot of people don't eat desserts. My family doesn't eat a lot of desserts. We were watching our waist. I watch mine expand. Uh, but I still try not to eat a lot of desserts. Um, but they were very good cookies. If I was going to have a family function with my sisters, I think I would make them just to be a blast from the past. But at Christmas time, peanut butter blossoms and the chocolate crinkles, which is the fudgy cookie that you roll into the confectionery sugar and bake it, and they are just delightful. I still make those to this day for Christmas time. Um, but these cookbooks just bring back such memories. And so in doing the research, I found some threads and just some comments when somebody brought up this book. One This was on Reddit, and this one woman goes, "I have my Betty Betty Croc. I have my mother's Betty Crocker cookbook she got as a wedding gift, as well as her best friend's copy. Do people still give cookbooks for wedding gifts? What a great idea!" I I remember the these being given for a wedding. Somebody else writes, "Daddy loves the coconut cookies and the crunchy ones particularly. Just been looking for a new brand since most of his old ones aren't made anymore and changed the recipes. Can't wait to try these out." Um, I bet his mom made cookies for him and would get them from her cookie factory job, a highlight of his childhood. Um, but that's just what I'm saying is all of this stuff, it just ignites memories. When I did my Facebook post, people people would talk about one woman, I know she's in her 80s now. She says she still uses the pie recipes. Another person, it's like the best chocolate chip cookie recipe ever. But there's fond memories from these cookbooks. And so with the direction that I'm taking Weezy and talking about living legacy and encouraging people to tell some of their stories, um, I thought it would be good for me to start bringing up some of the iconic things that we remember that are, and like Betty Crocker and Better Homes and Garden, they're still alive and thriving today. So that is all I have for today. Leave me a comment and let me know if you still have the cookbook, if you have a favorite recipe. Oh, and before we go, no, that was from the other cookbook. So no, I'm not going to tell that story. But anyway, that's all I have for today. And if you aren't part of my email, or you want to go check out my website and learn more about living legacy, you can scan your phone over this QR code right here, or just down here is my web address, weezyinc.com. And you can go in there and you can find all sorts of information about who I am and what I do. So until next time, everybody, bye.